Everybody, this is Baileywiki. We're back again with Vox. Hey, Vox.
Hey guys, how's everybody doing?
Doing well. Zephyr's joined us, and we are going to take the next kind of round of setting up a world like we kind of left off last time. We want to get some content into this world, some things that we can start to play around with. And we're actually going to do an official adventure from DnD 5e today. So we're going to go through a little bit of part of getting content in. We're going to use MrPrimates for that. We're going to install a couple more modules. Some of them will go into detail, some of them we won't. And then we're going to go through the process of setting up your players and their characters, and maybe even getting as far as combat. So we'll see how far we get in this next segment. But how's that sound to you guys?
Sounds great. I'm ready.
Sounds like
awesome.
a plan.
Well, I'm sure, Vox, you went down a rabbit hole since we talked last time. In fact, I know you did, because I'm seeing you've already built a sandbox. Are you already getting your arms around what Foundry is capable of?
Yeah, it's a very big hug that's going to take a long time to get completely comfortable with. But yeah, I didn't get much sleep since our last session, because there's so many good things that I was just digging into, and I was just spiderwebbing off. I was onto one thing, onto the next, finding something new. It's just there's so much to discover.
Well, we've been there before, so I know what that feels like. It feels like I do that every time I jump into Foundry. Okay, well, let's get cracking today then. I know that we want to get some content, and we were looking at DnD Beyond last time. So let's talk about how to get to what we want. In this case, which adventure were you thinking about running?
So we are going to be running the Rime of the Frost Maiden.
Great. Okay. Well, then I think what we want to do is we want to buy it. And the DnD Beyond site can be a little bit confusing as far as like, what do you actually need to buy? So I think, if I'm not mistaken, we go to Marketplace.
Yep. And then I believe the store.
And that's where we're at. Okay, great. And then inside of the Marketplace, the store. And adventures, right?
Yep.
Great. All right. So now we've got all these official adventure books here. Let's find Rime of the Frost Maiden.
So here we can add the book to the cart.
Mm-hmm.
Click on here. This is what originally confused me when I was first starting.
Let's scan down the page and see what we've got. So you can buy the book at the top, right? And then you've got the stuff down below. You've got magic items, and these are looks like a la carte items, right? So like what do you need to buy is the first question, right? You've got monsters, I think you've got spells at the very end. And then you got this thing called compendium content only. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Zephyr, we just want to buy the book, right? It should include all of these elements.
Yeah.
With it.
My understanding is that all of those magic items and monsters are included within the book itself. That's just an option if for whatever reason you didn't want the Rime of the Frost Maiden book with the story and the maps and everything, and you just wanted to get, say specifically just the brain in a jar or all of the monsters. And that functions slightly differently too from that compendium only content, which is almost like the inverse, where you're only going to be able to read things, but you're not going to be able to add the items to your character sheets in DnD Beyond. And then by extension, we're not going to be able to import those with MrPrimate's importer down the line. So the easiest solution here is to just buy the book.
Okay.
We got it.
All right, looks like we've got a official adventure module. So now what, Zephyr? We've got it. Now how do we get this into Foundry?
Right. There is a excellent module developer, MrPrimate, who has been creating and maintaining this DnD Beyond importer module. And you can actually find that within the Foundry VTT add-on modules list. So we don't have to go find a manual installation link for it for the JSON, because there are some free features for it. But for most people who are heavily leveraging D&D Beyond content, like we will be with an official adventure, I think it's really worth it to go ahead and subscribe to his Patreon. And then we'll be able to import all of our monsters and like class features, etc., which is really helpful here.
Great. Which package is the one that we should start with?
Right. So I believe that everything that we would want to be doing is available in the coffee tier, though there may be some features that we would like that are going to be considered beta content. And so we might want to end up going up to the Undying Gratitude tier, so a second tier here. So that kind of depends a little bit. We could either go with the tier 1 and see if there's any content that we would like to still import that is classified as beta content, or we can go ahead and just get the second tier and go with all the bells and whistles, basically.
What do you think, Brent? It's your nickel.
So we can start with the 450, and if there's anything else that we need to add, we can come back and upgrade to the Undying. How about that?
Seems like
It's
a wise
for
choice.
science, right?
I think that was my exact approach when I first used MrPrimates as well. So I think some of the content that used to be beta is now no longer beta, so we might not need any other bells and whistles here.
There we go.
Okay.
First
You're
two
officially,
steps
officially
done.
supporting MrPrimate. Okay, well then, now that you've got that access, if for those who aren't familiar, there's often Discords available. Like we have a Discord available for our community for Baileywiki, but there's also one for MrPrimate. You can find those that can be very helpful to answer questions if you're running into some problems. In the meantime, let's jump over to the left side of your screen and let's now install the MrPrimate module and probably another couple modules while we're here.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just knock out a lot of those while we're already in the neighborhood. Hey everyone, Zephyr from the future here, and I wanted to chime in at this point. Throughout this video, we do a lot of installing and enabling different modules. So we've gone ahead and sped through or cut out most of that content right there. And if you want to see the full list of modules that we ended up installing, you can find them down in the description under the title Modules that were installed this session. Now enjoy the rest of this session with Vox.
So this will give you a good smattering of some of the community artists and creators. Okay, I think that's all we need for right now. I think we're ready to jump into the world. You remember how to get there? Yep, Game Worlds.
Thinking what we should probably do is create a new one, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Or would you like to jump back into the existing Hello World?
No, I like it. I like the idea of creating a new one because that's where your content's going to live, right? For your game.
Yeah, I think that's a good call.
You can always come back in here and fix that later. But now you want to select a game system. There you go. And I'm expecting you to find a really creative splash screen background image for the next time.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Okay, now our server's now active and now we can log in. Okay, so now let's remember we've installed these modules, and the main one we were interested in is MrPrimate. So we'll go into Settings, Manage Modules, and you'll see those tabs at the top. We can quickly nothing's been activated in this particular world, right? So let's go and start activating some things.
So to access the DnD Beyond importer, you're going to go to your Compendiums directory over there. So right next door to the, on the right side, right to the left of the settings. And then you see that DDB Muncher. That is your DnD Beyond content muncher. And if you go ahead and click on that, it's going to bring up a window here. So the way that the DnD Beyond importer works is there is a cookie that DnD Beyond stores for you in order to basically have a unique identifier with you. And so the DnD Beyond importer module is basically communicating with the DnD Beyond servers to basically figure out what content you have so that it knows what it can bring in. And so there's a few different options here. MrPrimate has made a Chrome extension, and there's also a DnD Beyond data grabber, or you can do some manual steps using like the inspect mode in Chrome. Completely up to you. I also was fine with the manual steps, has instructions on just using the inspect mode with a Chromium browser to find your own Cobalt cookie. It's been a bit since I've done it, but
So this is done from the DnD Beyond. So what we should probably do is split these out, right?
yep.
Works. So hit F12 on the D&D Beyond site, right?
Yep.
Open up our inspector.
I just hit F12.
There we go. And now we want to go to the application tab. Sorry for anyone who can't see or make out the text here, but going to the application tab. And next, fill in the field there, the filter field, search for Cobalt.
I lost the field. Hold on.
Let's see, F12.
You'll want to expand cookies first. On the left, great. And then click on D&D Beyond.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I missed all of the steps on the left. Expand cookies.
Yep, all good. And then now you'll filter by Cobalt. And you never want to share this cookie with anybody else or anything like that. So definitely only use this with trusted apps. We trust MrPrimate though. So go ahead and copy the value there.
Assuming that it's the entire value down below here as well.
It's pretty lengthy. So yep.
Easier for people to grab it from down here than trying to filter through and get stuff up from up there.
Good call. Okay, so now we've got our value. We're going to paste it in, hitting Control V, and let's see how we did.
Great. So it doesn't really give you a great visual confirmation that the Cobalt cookie has been accepted, but if we go ahead and click on the muncher again, we'll now see that we've got a bunch of different options here. But in order to actually bring in all of the content that we want, we're also going to need to connect our Patreon with MrPrimate. So if you go into your game settings and in configure settings, under the module settings, we're here in DnD Beyond Importer. We're going to go inside of the core setup.
Okay.
And if you scroll down, there is the detect Patreon status. Yeah, perfect.
Just brings me to this.
Yeah, and when you hit allow, it should automatically open and then close. But if it doesn't automatically close, then there's that key right there directly after your email. Oh, sorry. So it'll have like email and then it has key. Yep. And you'll want to copy that because it seems like whether that's some extension you've got on Chrome or something, or it's just not in the mood today. It's not auto closing, so I think that's meaning it's not sending the data to the server. So that's all right. We still have our key. You can go ahead and close out of this tab and then minimize and get back to Foundry. And our other option here is just paste it down here in the key area. And now we should be able to save and reopen core setup to double check and hit detect. Yeah, look, it shows that our tier is coffee and valid true. So perfect. This shows that we've got the Patreon linked and everything. So now we're ready to munch.
Awesome.
So we go ahead and close out of our game settings. And just to be safe, I think in theory you don't need to close and reopen the muncher, but let's go ahead and do that just to make sure with the Patreon status. Great. And so there are some different pointers in here and different settings you can use. For example, you can actually choose to download the DnD Beyond images, so it will actually store those on your local machine. That means that you'll have snappier loading times in the future, but it is going to be taking up storage space for you rather than using web links, etc. You can also use icons, etc. So there's a lot of different settings you can choose from. You also notice there's something for DAE. And so Dynamic Active Effects is a really powerful automation suite. And I think we already have that downloaded. If we wanted to enable that, then we can have these DnD Beyond importer things come in already with DAE functionality built into them. And we've already got DAE, its SRD, and MIDI-qual. So we should probably go ahead and enable those in our module or manage modules. And then we'll have this import be really smart and really take a lot of the setup for us.
You've got a big hard drive. You want to go ahead and download all the images now?
Absolutely, we can.
Okay.
Alrighty. So there's a lot of other options here if you want to specifically configure how you're having like folders generated, etc. Or you can kind of leave it up to the program.
What is typically the best thing to start with? Kind of how we have it now and just let it do its thing?
Yeah, I personally like it set up just how it comes out of the box, basically. I think that organization of the compendiums makes sense to me. But if in the future you decide you don't want that, you can go ahead and delete the imported pieces and then just re-munch it again. It will already have the correct images, so it's not going to screw all of that up or duplicate the efforts. So that's good.
So now we want to go to our muncher and see if we can get the rest of the way in our process.
Yes, beautiful. All right, so the first things that you're going to want to import so that everything else can kind of be dependent upon it. Obviously, your monsters have spells and items, and your players have spells and items, etc. So what we want to do is we want to first import our spells and basically work from left to right here. There's the option to create active effects. And so if you have all of these modules installed, this is going to bring in all of the spells and items with all of their automation already done for you. And so it's a great time now to install these, even if we're not going to dig into them just yet. So that is up to you, whether that's you, Vox, or you, the viewer at home, on whether you want all of the automation that these things bring. I can give you kind of a brief overview of the different aspects, or we can just pull the trigger and say, give me the automation. So
I'm a big fan of not seeing red X's.
That is fair.
I say rather than having to fix it later because I'm missing something, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So I will go and download these right now. Are there any other ones that I will need when doing any of the other tabs here?
Nope.
Good question.
That should be everything because as I mentioned before, the spells and the items are the most complex pieces, actually. All of your monsters and adventures and characters are basically just collections of those items and spells. So if you're good with your spells and items, you're good with everything. So let's go ahead and install some modules.
Oh, JB2A.
Great.
Did you see
One more time.
There is another module that will actually do a bunch of the animations. We don't need it for this step, so I think we can move forward, Zephyr. But
yeah.
Hey, I click the button now.
Hey.
Yes, you can click the button. Before we actually get playing around with it, we'll need to go grab that JB2A module so that we actually have the visual components. Otherwise, I think we're going to get some tile errors floating around.
Alrighty.
Let's munch.
Now let's spell munch. And this may take a while, especially because we're downloading the particular items. Or that will be incredibly fast, one of the two.
I do have a very quick connection. That seemed really quick.
Yeah, so let's go to our compendium packs and check the default section as well, because it doesn't always automatically come in. Sorry. So these DDB compendiums, the DDB backgrounds, etc., those are things from the Muncher. And notice that those are world compendiums. So one of the somewhat unfortunate aspects of the importer, working the way that it does, is that means anytime you make a new world, you're unfortunately going to have to munch again in order to bring things in properly. But that's how it can have a nice unified compendium that is going to be updatable. So if you get new source blocks, you don't need to clear out your old things. You can just update the things you're missing. So let's click on the DDB spells and we'll see what we brought in here. Or search for either one. Okay, so we may have had an issue. So we may need to go ahead and install those automated animations. Or the JB2A for the automated animations.
Oh, you think so?
I don't know because it had the error pop up. I wouldn't have thought that would cause an issue, but because that error popped up. So let's go ahead and try and have that installed. Okay, this is looking good. Great.
Now we got some confirmation.
Good to me.
Yeah. So now if we go find our DDB spells, which were in our item subfolder there.
So try just typing DDB up above.
Yep.
And you can see it immediately filters down to everything that you...
Oh, it filters them all even within the folders.
That's
so
right. Nice, right?
Very nice.
So let's open up our spells one down there, just, near the bottom. Beautiful.
Oh.
Now, these spells are specially formatted with all those automations. You could actually find some of these in the SRD. The SRD is also in your compendiums there. If you typed in SRD instead of DDB, you'd find all of your SRD stuff. You don't want to use the SRD stuff if you have an option to use the spell from here, because these are just going to be smarter with all the automation that you've got available. Make sense?
Yeah. Can I open both at the same time?
Sure can.
You can have as many compendiums open as you want.
That is fantastic.
And you can search and type ahead up above too, in the same way. So you can pretty quickly see if you've got more than one option for. Exactly.
I've got friends who are just going to be fireballing everything.
Of course. All right. Well, you guys want to munch the rest of the categories and
Let's do it.
get all the things?
Yeah.
Do I
So I would go ahead and select that dynamically generate DAE effects on equipment. I would not bother with the bottom one. That's kind of a deprecated feature. It used to be that DAE would automatically apply armor class bonuses to people wearing the armor, but then that got added in as a core feature to the 5e system. So it's kind of redundant and might cause issues these days.
It's like it chunked. Monsters now?
Let's go double check our items to see they all got brought in. Oh, well. Oh, there we go. Yeah, we want to make sure we wait until it says finished importing X before we actually move on to the next step, because sometimes that can either get something thrown off or we just might stop it prematurely. So it'll always give you that aspect on the top.
We imported the items where you said, let's go check those.
Yeah,
where
they
those
are. I'm seeing them. So under your item folder, it looks like they're fifth from the bottom. You could also do DDB space items. No, not fifth.
Oh, okay.
Fifth from the top.
All right. I got you. I was confused. I was like, okay, well, I'm in items.
Yep.
And then I didn't realize there'd be another DD items.
That is looking good. So Monsters has a lot of different options for you on how you want different aspects to be brought in. For example, that hide monster action description from players. What that's going to do is, we haven't really gone over items just yet, but within items you have text descriptions, and there is a type of formatting that has secret to it, so that only the owner of that item or that actor is able to actually read it. So it's basically hiding stuff that would give some more information to players. So if you don't want them to know different aspects of, what dice are being rolled for it when they see the card come up in chat, then you'd want to click that. It's kind of a personal preference thing, but that's an option for you there.
Seems handy. That would have been very helpful in our Tomb of Annihilation run as people were picking up the items from the little gods that had died, and they gave them little secret abilities and nuances to their characters. Our problem in that was that everybody knew everything from everybody.
I think it's a good idea to try it out. We can always, if you ever change your mind, you can remunch all the data.
Yep. Exactly.
And it just overwrites itself, right? It's not like creating duplicate data in that directory.
That's
right.
correct.
In fact, I think there's even a setting that tells you what kind of behavior you want it to do. It's in the settings tab. But for now, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there's some other
Anything
options
else?
here too. There is the use dynamic active effects compendiums for matching items. I would highly recommend that because just like we talked about enabling those effects for spells, what this is going to do is it's going to go in and we have the DAE, SRD, and like the DAE stuff that we've already brought in. And instead of creating these kind of bare bones versions of the items and features on the monsters, it's going to look for those in our compendiums and then add those to the sheets. So it's going to make our monsters smarter and easier.
Seems to be like this DAE as a common theme between some of these.
Yep.
That as long as you got these, this is a good thing to do.
Yep. Yeah, and no matter how much automation you're really going for in your games, I would recommend pretty much anybody who's playing 5e to pick up DAE and pick up MIDI qual. Even if you're not getting crazy deep into some of the automation, it just makes a lot of things a lot easier to do.
All right. We ready to munch these?
Yeah, I think we are.
Munching
And
on some monsters.
this one might take a little longer. Not exactly sure how many monsters are coming in here, but it's probably a good bit.
I think this was the longest list on the DnD Beyond.
Yeah, I was going to say, but it
page.
is only since Rime of the Frost Maiden is the only resource that we have purchased through this right now. It's only pulling the Rime of the Frost Maiden, correct? If I do this after I've purchased other books, will it redo all of these plus the additional ones? Does it do my entire DnD Beyond compendium?
So there are settings to basically only add new stuff and settings to replace the old things. So you'll have the option in the future.
Now, Ancient Red Dragon, these are beyond what these are. This looks like this is SRD stuff too, right?
Yeah, I was just about to say that actually there might have been a setting at on that first page for ignoring SRD content. And so this is still going ahead and importing all the SRD stuff because the SRD is also on DnD Beyond. Where there's a little bit of a trade-off here is that some of the creatures that are included in the 5e system for Foundry don't have their artwork. So now you'll actually get some artwork. It might be a placeholder, etc. Just something to keep in mind as you're going through this. Zephyr here again. While we were going through the DnD Beyond importer, we made the decision to hold off on using the Aventure importer for now, so we're going to cover that in another session with Vox.
Okay. It looks like we've munched all the monsters.
They are munched, 8 up, ready to go.
That characters tab, I assume that's where you can import characters that have been built that your players. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is character-based things.
Yeah, so actually on the characters, you're importing in the individual features for building a character. If you want to import a already built character, what we'll actually do is mess with our actors themselves. So first, real quick tour of the Tools tab. And so this basically has a few different options for checking, fixing things if data gets out of whack, or if you're going to be resetting images, etc., or you're migrating folders of any type. So this is your port of call if you're looking for things like that. And then in the characters, as I mentioned earlier, it's a little unintuitive perhaps, or it might not be exactly what you think right off the bat, but this is how, if you wanted to build your character by dragging features in and items onto an actor sheet, This is where you would go to grab all those individual pieces so that when your players level up, they can drag in these feats. And we can see that there's a few different options for downloading things like your class and class features and your feats and your race and racial features. The background is in the next tier up, but that's up to you on whether you consider that feature really important to you or not.
So if we were to say just munch these class and class features, it's going to grab all of the things that allow people to easily modify their character sheets rather than have to physically type the stuff in.
Yep, exactly. So that's going to bring in all those things, kind of like that items compendium we have over to the left. We'll have a new items compendium of like the class features and classes that we can just drag and drop onto our character sheets later.
Let's look at subclasses down below at the end of the item list. Pretty great, right?
Oh, this is awesome, guys.
Let's look at races.
I'm concerned, though, that my guys are going to be like, okay, it's time to make a life domain barbarian.
Of course they will.
Well, one of the nice things about this is you can either have your characters take care of all of the character sheet building, or you can lock that up for only certain times and when they're heavily supervised.
Yes. Yes. But this is fantastic, being able to see all of these and.
Yep. And you have all the spells at your fingertips, all the items.
Yeah.
Pretty nice.
And
okay.
This is my DnD Beyond resources. So this is great. We went from one environment to my fingertips in just a matter of a few minutes.
Also, while we were munching content with the DnD Beyond importer, we had a lot of waiting to do, so Baileywiki opened up our development world to show Vox some of the things we've been up to with 3D and other advanced Foundry features.
So let's take a second to load, because we're going to go 3D.
Yep.
And these are some assets that, as of recording this, are not released yet, but by the time people see this video, this should be released. But do you watch like Critical Role or Dimension 20 or any of those?
No, I haven't heard of those guys or any of
No.
those.
Yeah, right. Well, there's something really special about creating a battle map that the players can literally zoom around themselves and see the full tactical experience of the battle. I do not recommend 3D maps as your exclusive go-to. There's certain setup and other things, but I have done, so this is all leveraging Ripper's modules, but I've done a bunch of stuff to make working in 3D really easy. So like that map that you just saw is modular. It's pieces that you can pull out, throw down, like you would pull out a box of
like
Dwarven Forge stuff. And you can make all sorts of things. So these are like really dynamic. All of these pieces here are, if I can find my cursor, are movable and changeable. And even this terrain itself and these effects that you're seeing around it, it's all stuff that can be adjusted. So like, let's see if I can show you, for example. Get to my terrain. So I can make my terrain flat or tall. I can change entirely the terrain I'm using into a mountain or a pit or all sorts of stuff. And yep. Like here's like another. So this is like pretty advanced stuff, but it's actually really easy to do once you get into it. And and I've even brought my players' tokens in as 3-dimensional players. But you can see like there's this, lava flowing down below. I mean, you have these like particle effects flowing up. And to unleash a map like this with some crazy boss and other things it's just so much fun. I mean, it's literally an emotional moment for players when they see like this. A lot of people know this is my son's token that he plays with when we play our life games. And when he saw this rendered in 3D in these maps, it was like an emotional moment for him. And so these are the kinds of things that I'm not aware of, other VTTs that can even get this far. And we haven't even done like multi-level stuff with you yet. But I know you've been dabbling in it.
Yeah.
But to even have one 3D map that's maybe the culmination of a part of the story arc or even the entire story arc is such, like, if we're trying to create really just amazing moments, here's this dragon on top of this mountain, and I just love this stuff. And I'm just getting into it now, so I'm kind of learning it for the community, and then rolling out resources and ways to make it like really easy to work with. But I just thought you'd like to see, like, where could we go with this as far as creating some of these experiences.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I've done part of my work and everything is that I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of different things and parts and machines and things in 3D. So modeling things in 3D is really easy for me.
Great. There's so many good resources out there. As you probably know, that there's a lot of models like this one already created. This is free model. I'll have a tutorial coming out soon where I show people how to get this stuff, but it's been surprisingly easy to make 3D work. So
yeah, this is awesome.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
All right, everyone. Like our previous recording with Vox, we're going to break this up into 2 separate parts. So we've gone over the ins and outs of using MrPrimate's DnD Beyond importer. In our next session, we're going to go through creating 2 basic characters, one using Foundry's drag and drop system, and another using the DnD Beyond importer. We also do a little bit of basic combat and combat automation next time, so stay tuned for that. In the comments, let us know what else you think we should be showing Vox in these sessions, and if you have any questions about Foundry VTT that we've left unanswered so far. If you've been enjoying the videos, subscribe to the channel to keep up with all of our latest content, and consider becoming a patron. Not only do you help support the channel, but you also get access to all of the content and modular systems that we've made, including those 3D maps that Baileywiki was showing off at the end of the video. Once again, this has been Zephyr with the Baileywiki channel. Thank you so much for watching, happy gaming, and have a good one.